Egghead here. Today I'm going to be talking about Micheal Ferland and how I think he will be an important player for the Canucks this year in the playoffs. Before we get into today's video, I need to go over one thing, and that is the reason I haven't uploaded for the past couple of days. I think it's like 5 days now. And that is because my computer's drive died. And also it's because I've been struggling to find ideas. So please recommend your ideas, or else I'll probably just upload less or just talk a lot more about the Canucks, because I have a lot of ideas around the Canucks because they're like my main team. So if you want me to talk about something else, please leave your recommendations. I love to see your recommendations. And as long as they're not trolls or things I genuinely don't want to make, I will use your ideas. I love to see your ideas. So please comment them down below if you have any good ideas. Anyways, let's get into the video. So Micheal Ferland has started to skate in practice, and he has been recovering from his concussion. Now, some people thought that Ferland's career was over, but that is most likely not the case. I'm pretty sure Ferland is safe to play again, and I'm pretty sure he's not going to retire, because I've heard nothing about that on the news or on like Twitter or anything. Anyways, he has been skating with Canucks players such as Troy Stecher, Alex Edler, Chris Tanev, and Jake Virtanen, because he made a 200 IQ play and found a way to travel from Manitoba, or at least I think it was Manitoba. Anyways, he found a way to travel from Manitoba to Vancouver without quarantining. Instead of flying and having to quarantine, he drove to Vancouver, and now he can practice immediately with the Canucks players that stayed in Vancouver, which really shows some dedication. But that's not the point. The point is, he is well enough to get practice and get on the ice, and since he's going to get those extra 2 weeks of time to practice that he would have spent quarantining, he will most likely shake off all of his rust and probably be ready to play in the play-in round versus Minnesota. That is, of course, assuming he is well enough to play, which is looking pretty likely, as he has been recovering since October 30th, and he'll still have a few more weeks to recover. And I can't really confirm this, but I have seen lots of things saying that he'll probably play inside the Minnesota series. I don't know if he'll play the whole series. Maybe he'll miss a couple of the first couple games, but we're just going to have to assume he will return for the rest of the video, as that seems like the pretty likely possibility, and I'm pretty sure he'll be healthy enough to play, assuming he doesn't run into any other injuries or aggravate his concussion. So Ferland's recovery is underway, and he'll be ready to play soon. And it also seems like he's keen to play, as he literally drove from Manitoba to Vancouver just to get some extra weeks of training camp. And this seems like the play, and I think more players might actually drive to the hub cities from Canadian teams, of course, just to get that extra practice in, as it seemed pretty smart to do that. Anyways, let's talk about these 3 questions I have. Will he be ready to perform up to his usual standards after missing months and months of play? And where will he fit into the Canucks lineup? And why do I think he will be a key playoff performer? Sorry, I used way too many ands there. Anyways, I'm going to answer all 3 of those questions. But first, let's talk about will he or will he not perform up to his regular standard. Ferland suffered his concussion on October 30th, and he had only played 14 games. On February 11th, he was loaned to Utica, and he left his first game with Utica due to concussion-like symptoms. And I don't believe he has skated with the Canucks since the 30th, until, of course, a couple of days ago when he arrived in Vancouver. But since he doesn't have to quarantine, he will have the extra 2 weeks to practice that he would have spent quarantining. And hopefully, he will be up to his usual level. Hopefully. Do I think he will most likely reach his usual standard? Probably not. You can't go the length of a whole season without doing a single really full-on team practice and expect to be the same player. I do think Ferland will be good, but I think he'll be slightly worse than usual, as these group sessions can't really compare to a full-on practice with coaches and trainers, and he hasn't played in months, so he's going to be rusty. So he's not going to get the proper training that he would have got in a regular season, and of course he's going to be rusty. So I think if Ferland returns, he will be a little worse. Do I think he'll eventually get his game back? Yes, but not in time for the playoffs. But he might get it midway through the playoffs, but we don't know if the Canucks are going to make it far or not. And this injury could end up affecting him for the seasons to come and the playoffs. So I don't think he'll be exactly the same, but he still will be an impact player, and hopefully his injury doesn't end up affecting him, as the Canucks are paying him $3.5 million for 4 years. So that would be another handful of money that the Canucks have just wasted away. Now let's talk about how he'll fit into the Canucks' lineup, and then after that, we'll talk about the big point, and that is why I think he'll be a big impact player in the playoffs. So, on the top line, we will have the usual Elias Pettersson and JT Miller. And then we'll have either Tyler Toffoli or Brock Besser on the right wing. I personally think that Besser will be on the top line, as he'll be 100%, and when he's healthy, he's without a doubt better than Tyler Toffoli. On the second line, we'll have Bo Horvat, obviously in the center position, and on the right side, we'll have Tyler Toffoli or Brock Besser, probably Tyler Toffoli. And on the left side, we'll have Tanner Pearson. And I think maybe, just maybe, we could see Ferland go on the second line instead of Pearson if he really finds his game like he did in 2015 with Calgary in the playoffs against the Canucks. Anyways, then we come to the third line. I think Ferland will fit on the third line. He'll play left wing on the third line, and his center will be Adam Gaudette, and his right winger will be Jake Virtanen. And I like this fit because Virtanen and Ferland somewhat play a similar game-ish. Both Virtanen and Ferland play physical, powered forward-like games. Ferland is more of an agitator grinder kind of player, whereas Virtanen is more of just a checking goal scorer. But regardless, I still think Virtanen, Gaudette, and Ferland would be a great checking lineup. And for those of you who want to hear my full mock lineup, tell me in the comments section below. I will tell you the fourth line of forwards, but if you want to see the rest in a video, comment down below. Anyways, the fourth line would be Jay Beagle at center, Antoine Roussel at left wing, and Josh Leivo at right wing. Anyways, let's get back on topic. So let's talk about why I think Ferland will be a key player for the Canucks this playoffs and for years to come. The Canucks have sort of been searching for a player like Ferland who can be an agitator and get under the opponent's skin. It's pretty obvious that the Canucks are trying to become a more physical team, as they have players like JT Miller, Tyler Mott, Jake Virtanen, Antoine Roussel, Bo Horvat, Tyler Myers, Chris Tanev, Micheal Ferland, and a few more. But they haven't really gotten an agitator. And they also haven't really gotten a good energy player. They kind of got Antoine Roussel, but Ferland is sort of on a whole new level. Some people say that energy players are sort of a dying style and aspect of the game. And I think energy players are still key nowadays. Even as a fan, you get hyped up when you see a crushing hit or a fight. And imagine how much energy players gain from seeing those big hits and fights. Imagine just sitting on a bench and watching your teammate crush someone that you hate and want to beat in a game that matters a lot. It must be pretty energizing. Anyways, Ferland is definitely a role player for the Canucks. Yes, he can score like 15 to 20 goals per season, but the main aspect of the game and the reason why the Canucks got him is because of his physicality and the energy he brings to his team. And on top of helping out his teammates, he can get under the opponent's skin and frustrate them. And he's probably pretty intimidating to play against, as he's literally looking to take every opportunity he can to hit someone that gets in his way or even just crosses him. He's literally a hitting machine. Here's an example of the impact he had, and this example is actually from the 2015 playoff series, and this series was against the Canucks. And at the time, he was playing for the Flames. In this 6-game series, Ferland laid down 40 hits, and that is an average of 6.7 hits per game. And if you don't know, that is really good. As a Canucks fan watching Ferland just run over and dominate our players, it was pretty frustrating and annoying. At the time, I hated the guy. The type of player Ferland is feeds off the crowd's energy, and they energize their team and their fans with their crunching hits and fights. Ferland is that kind of player, but I can't assume he loves the crowd's attention and feeds off their excitement and hate, but he does energize his team with his hits and fights. So, by playing his usual style of game, he frustrates the opponent and boils up their anger. He energizes his team, he energizes the crowd, he energizes himself, and he does all this just by playing physically. He is a really valuable player in a non-traditional way. He isn't like McDavid or Draisaitl, where their value is based off pure skill and talent. He's valuable because of the way he plays physically and mentally. He gets under the opponent's skin and he energizes his team. And he's overall just a team player. He is not the most skilled player on the ice. He does not carry the team forward with his amazing skill set, but he helps them play better by keeping them competitive and energetic by delivering hits and getting in fights and just doing anything for the team. It's a weird style of play, and some people say stuff like that doesn't really do anything. And as someone who actually plays hockey and knows a thing or two about the sport, I can definitely say that it does help. And even if it's just trash talking or pushing someone around at the net, NHL players can definitely use the energy to play better. So, Ferland is a key player because of things beneath the surface. He helps in more of a team sense. He doesn't just straight up score a handful of goals, he has more of a widespread effect. And sometimes, I think, are players like Ferland more valuable than skill players? Probably not, but in some situations like this, they sometimes can be. That's kind of a hot take, but what do you guys think? Are skill players more valuable than energy / grinder kind of players, or vice versa? Obviously, by skill players, I don't necessarily mean players like Connor McDavid, but just in general, players who depend on their offensive or defensive skill versus players who are like Ferland and have impacts in special ways like grinders, energy players, veterans, depth players, two-way players, and other role players like penalty killers. Tell me what you guys think in the comment section below. Who is more valuable, skill players or players like grinders, two-way players, and other special types of players? Yes, that's completely irrelevant, or not completely irrelevant. It's not part of the point of today's video, but it's a pretty good question. And if I do end up making a video on this, your comment could be featured in the video if it raises a good point. Anyways, that concludes today's video. Thank you guys for watching. And for you listening right there, thank you for watching till the end of today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on post notifications if you did enjoy the video. Until next time, bye.